Number 10. You question every price tag. You're at a restaurant. Someone orders a $25 cocktail. Everyone else just goes along with it, smiling, sipping, maybe posting it on Instagram. You're staring at the glass like it's a math problem. You already know the wholesale bottle costs $30, so this single drink is basically daylight robbery. That's the thing. Once you reach a certain level of wealth, your brain doesn't look at money the same way. For most people, prices are final. They see the tag, they pay, they move on. But for the rich, every price tag is a question mark. Psychologists call this value awareness. It's the reflex to break down costs, margins, and markups instead of just swallowing the number in front of you. For you, it's not about being cheap, it's about principle. Why should I pay $25 for something worth $5? Why does this gym charge a $200 initiation fee for typing your name into a computer? Why is first class triple the price when the plane lands at the same time? The gift here is obvious. You're hard to manipulate. You see through scams, inflated luxury pricing, and the way companies prey on people's emotions. The curse? You look like that person, the rich guy arguing over pennies. People don't get that it's not the money that bothers you, it's the con. Here's the irony. When you're rich, it's not about asking, can I afford it? That's boring. It's about asking, why should I? And that tiny shift from survival thinking to principle thinking is what most people can't relate to. Because when you've got money, curiosity about prices doesn't go away. It actually intensifies. Every receipt, every investment, every so-called deal becomes a puzzle your brain refuses to ignore. Number 9. You get bored with luxury. When you're broke, luxury feels like heaven. That first designer watch, the first time you fly first class, the first time you walk into a 5-star hotel, it's intoxicating. You soak it in, you take 100 photos, you feel like you've finally made it. But here's the ugly secret nobody tells you. Once you're rich, that feeling fades, and it fades fast. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. It means your brain adjusts to new pleasures until they feel normal. What once made your heart race now barely moves the needle. That $500 dinner, magical the first time. By the third or fourth, it's just food. That dream car you fantasized about for years. 6 months in, it feels like any other vehicle just with higher insurance premiums. Even luxury vacations start to blend together. Bali, Maldives, Dubai, beautiful, yes. But when you can go whenever you want, they stop feeling special. The blessing. Boredom forces you to chase meaning over material. You start realizing that fulfillment doesn't come from stacking shiny objects. It comes from creating, building, or sharing. Many rich people eventually shift from buying to doing. They invest in businesses, art, philanthropy, or experiences because another Rolex won't change their life, but starting a foundation might. The curse? Regular life feels boring. When friends lose their minds over a fancy rooftop bar, you're politely sipping your drink thinking, yep, seen it, done it, nothing new here. That disconnect makes you seem jaded or arrogant. This is why a lot of wealthy people end up addicted to novelty. Not money, novelty. It's why some of them take extreme risks, dangerous hobbies, absurd investments, or even wild adventures like going to space. They're not doing it because they need more money. They're doing it because normal luxury stopped giving them a thrill. Here's the paradox. Most people think wealth means you finally get to enjoy everything. But when you've had it all, everything starts to feel like nothing. The smarter rich people realize this and use boredom as fuel to create. The rest? They just keep buying, hoping the next thing finally feels different. Spoiler, it rarely does. Number 8. You argue with yourself about guilt. You spend $5,000 on a weekend trip. Private villa, ocean view, personal chef, the works. You're loving it. But then later, maybe on the flight home, the voice creeps in. That money could have paid someone's rent for months. It could have covered a year of groceries for a struggling family. Did I really need to spend it like this? That's the invisible tax of wealth. Guilt. Psychologists call this wealth guilt. The uneasy feeling that your comfort exists in direct contrast to someone else's struggle. The more you succeed, the more aware you become of the gap between your life and theirs. It's not that you regret success. You worked for it. You earned it. But when money stops being scarce, spending it can feel less like a reward and more like a moral dilemma. The gift of wealth guilt? It can keep you grounded. It's the reason many rich people are generous. They donate to charities, fund scholarships, tip heavily, or invest in their communities. Guilt forces them to look outside themselves and do something meaningful. The curse? It robs you of peace. You can't fully enjoy what you've earned without second-guessing yourself. Even a fair purchase, something you genuinely wanted, something you could easily afford, comes with mental side commentary. Do I deserve this? It's exhausting. And here's the irony. The richer you get, the heavier the guilt can feel. When you buy a nice car as a middle-class worker, nobody blinks. But when you buy your third luxury car as a millionaire, people start watching, and you start overthinking. Take lottery winners, for example. Studies show many fall into depression after sudden wealth. Not because they hate money, but because they feel crushed by the guilt of having more than everyone around them. Relationships change. expectations rise, and every dollar feels like it should have gone somewhere else. Wealth guilt is like a ghost at the dinner table. Everyone else sees champagne and laughter. You see invisible eyes judging every sip. And here's the kicker. Most people assume rich people are carefree, but behind closed doors, many of them are fighting silent battles with their own conscience. Number 7. You feel emotionally out of sync with friends. Picture this. You're out at dinner with old friends. The bill comes, it's $160. Suddenly the table turns into an Olympic-level math team. Everyone's calculating their share down to the last dollar. One person says, I only had one drink. Another says, I didn't get dessert. It drags on. Finally, someone suggests splitting evenly, and half the table looks offended. Meanwhile, you're sitting there thinking, this entire argument is smaller than what I earned in the time it took to have this meal. You don't care about the $40, but you also can't say that without sounding condescending. So you just sit in silence, nodding, watching your friends stress about something that barely registers in your world anymore. That right there is financial empathy erosion. It's what happens when your emotional reality no longer lines up with the people around you. Money changed the way you process stress, joy, even fear. You don't panic about bills, rent, or car repairs anymore. And while that should feel like freedom, it also leaves you out of sync with the people who still live in that world. The gift of this shift: perspective. You're no longer trapped in survival mode, which means you can focus on growth, creativity, and long-term goals. The curse: distance. The gap between your problems and theirs makes connection harder. Their worries feel small to you, but to them, they're everything. And when you don't react the same way, you look detached. It's why many wealthy people find conversations with old friends more and more draining. You want to talk about investing in startups or real estate strategies. They want to complain about gas prices. You want to discuss global economics. They want to debate who's paying for the Uber. And here's the thing. It's not that you don't care. You do. You remember what it was like to stress over small expenses. But memory fades. Once you've lived with money for long enough, it's impossible to fully put yourself back in those shoes. The irony is, the richer you get, the harder it is to empathize, and yet the more empathy you need, because if you don't actively bridge that gap, you end up isolated, the rich friend nobody can talk to without feeling insecure. So you learn to play along. You nod when people complain about a $30 parking ticket, even if that number doesn't sting anymore. You pretend to be surprised when someone says rent went up, because sometimes blending in is the only way to keep the people you care about close. Number 6. You struggle to relate to normal work. It's Monday morning. Your old coworkers are dragging themselves out of bed, battling traffic, clutching coffee like it's oxygen. They'll sit in fluorescent-lit cubicles, answer emails, nod through meetings that could have been an email, and count down the minutes until Friday. You used to be there. You know exactly what it felt like to live for weekends and dread Mondays. But now, that entire lifestyle feels like a distant memory. You can't fully relate anymore. This is what psychologists call lifestyle drift. The richer you get, the further your daily rhythm drifts away from the majority. They operate in survival cycles. Wake up, grind, get paid, pay bills, repeat. You operate in investment cycles. What's my portfolio doing? Where's the next opportunity? How do I grow long term? The gift: freedom. You've escaped the hamster wheel. You don't have to beg for vacation days. You don't have to smile through pointless performance reviews, and you definitely don't have to panic over a $200 emergency expense. The curse: disconnection. When your cousin vents about their boss, you nod politely, but deep down you can't feel it anymore. When your neighbor stresses about a $50 gas increase, it doesn't compute. Not because you're heartless, but because your brain no longer lives in that economy. Here's the irony. The harder you work to escape the grind, the harder it becomes to talk to the people still trapped in it. Their problems sound tiny compared to yours, but to them, they're enormous. And if you don't tread carefully, you sound arrogant without meaning to. Take work stories, for example. Your friend brags about getting a $2-hour raise. To them, it's life-changing. To you, it's a rounding error. You want to be happy for them, but the excitement feels foreign. So you smile, clap, and say, "That's awesome," while secretly thinking, "I spend more than that on coffee each week." Or family gatherings. Your aunt asks, "So, what do you do for work these days?" How do you even answer? Do you say, "I invest"? Too vague. Do you say, "I run businesses"? Sounds braggy. Do you say, "I don't really need to work"? That kills the mood instantly. That's the social trap of wealth. The further you drift from normal work life, the harder it is to relate without shrinking yourself. And yet, here's the twist. Escaping normal work doesn't always mean escaping purpose. The smartest rich people reinvent work into projects they care about. They build companies, fund causes, create legacies. Because at the end of the day, money frees you from the grind, but it doesn't free you from the need for meaning. Number 5. You see patterns in money everywhere. Most people see money as simple. You earn it, you spend it, you try to save a little. End of story. But when you're rich, money stops being just cash in and cash out. It becomes a system, a flow you can't stop noticing. You hear a friend brag about buying a brand new car, and your brain instantly starts running numbers: depreciation, maintenance, opportunity cost. You see someone on social media showing off a vacation, and you don't just see beaches, you see the hotel's business model, the seasonal pricing strategy, the margins they're running on cocktails by the pool. This is called pattern recognition bias. In psychology, it's the brain's habit of connecting dots that others miss. For most people, pattern recognition shows up in daily life. This traffic light is always slow at 5 p.m. But for wealthy people, it mutates into financial awareness. You start spotting money systems everywhere, whether you want to or not. The gift. It's a superpower. Pattern recognition is why investors see trends before the masses. It's how entrepreneurs build businesses out of gaps others never noticed. It's how you spot the invisible money leaks that drain everyone else's wallets. The curse? You can't turn it off. A casual conversation becomes an economics lecture in your head. Someone says, "I'm thinking about buying a house," and you're already dissecting mortgage rates, zoning laws, and inflation hedges before they finish their sentence. The richer you get, the stronger this reflex becomes, and the stranger it feels when nobody else around you sees it. They're impressed by surface. The shiny car, the big house, the brand name. You're impressed by leverage, scalability, tax advantages. It's like looking at the same picture but in two completely different dimensions. History proves this double-edged sword. Newton saw gravity in a falling apple. Tesla saw blueprints and lightning. Warren Buffett sees the future of companies in a balance sheet that looks boring to most people. But the same trait that fuels genius can also fuel madness. When you can't stop decoding the noise, the world feels like one giant riddle you're doomed to keep solving. Here's the irony. People accuse you of overanalyzing. They don't realize this is just how you experience reality now. You don't choose to see money everywhere. You simply can't unsee it. Number 4. You hate small talk about money. Picture this. You're at a party. Someone casually asks, "So how much do you pay for rent?" Another brags about getting a $2,000 bonus at work. Someone else is ranting about gas prices going up by 20 cents. Everyone is nodding, complaining, swapping stories. To them, this is exciting. To you, it feels like chewing cardboard. When you're rich, small talk about money doesn't just bore you, it irritates you, because your relationship with money has changed. The conversations most people obsess over feel shallow compared to the bigger financial realities you think about daily. It's not arrogance, it's intellectual hunger. You'd rather discuss how generational wealth changes families, or how inflation silently steals from savers, or how the stock market is basically mass psychology disguised as math. But if you bring that up at a casual dinner, people look at you like you just spoke another language. Here's the paradox. Small talk is the bridge to deep talk. Ignore it completely, and you cut yourself off from 90% of conversations. You look cold, standoffish, maybe even too good for others. Play along, and you feel like you're dumbing yourself down just to fit in. The gift of hating money, small talk, it means you crave depth. You're not content with shallow financial gossip. You want substance, ideas, strategy, truth. That hunger keeps your mind sharp. The curse? You risk social isolation. Because while you're itching to talk about capital flows and systemic inequality, most people just want to complain about their rent hike. This is why some wealthy people become oddly quiet in groups. Not because they're shy, but because the topics feel irrelevant to them. You're not going to jump into a heated debate about whether Starbucks is too expensive, when you're busy thinking about global commodity prices that actually affect coffee. But here's the twist. Sometimes small talk is just camouflage. That boring conversation about rent or gas might actually be the warm-up. It's how people test the waters before diving deeper. Dismissing it too quickly means you might miss someone else who actually shares your depth. They just needed a moment to get there. So the real skill isn't avoiding small talk. It's tolerating it long enough to find the people who can go past it. Think of it like shaking hands before a meeting. It feels pointless, but it sets the stage for what matters. Number 3. You develop a strange sense of humor. Money changes what you find funny, not because you suddenly lose empathy, but because you start seeing how absurd the whole system is. And once you see the absurdity, it's hard not to laugh at it. Like billionaires who wear the same $5 t-shirt every day, or luxury brands selling limited edition sneakers for $1,000 that cost $40 to manufacture. Or watching governments argue about budgets when you know entire fortunes are moved quietly in tax havens every single day. This is what I call economic absurdity recognition. When you've seen behind the curtain, the game stops looking serious. It looks like satire. And psychologists actually back this up. There's research that links intelligence, wealth, and appreciation for irony or dark humor. Why? Because it takes holding two contradictory truths in your head at once. For example, luxury is sold as rare, but you know it's mass-produced. Or people claim money doesn't buy happiness, but you've literally seen how much easier life is with it. The contradiction itself is funny. The gift. Humor becomes your coping mechanism. When you're aware of how broken, contradictory, and downright silly money systems are, laughing about it keeps you sane. You can see flaws in capitalism, luxury culture, or even your own spending habits, and laugh instead of spiraling. The curse? Not everyone laughs with you. Joke about my accountant saving me more than my job ever did. And some people see arrogance, not irony. Laugh about a $200 glass of wine being overpriced water, and someone will think you're out of touch. This is why wealthy humor often doesn't translate. You're not mocking people, you're mocking the system. But most people can't separate the two. Look at some of the richest and most influential minds in history. They all leaned on humor. Warren Buffett cracks jokes about taxes and shareholder meetings. Elon Musk tweets memes about bankruptcy. Even Stephen Hawking joked about charging for time travel. The richest people often lean on humor because it's the only way to process how ridiculous money and life actually are. So if you find yourself laughing at the ironies of wealth when others look uncomfortable, it doesn't mean you're insensitive, it means you've seen the game too clearly. And once you see the game, it's impossible not to laugh at it. Number 2. You overthink happiness. Most people chase happiness without thinking too hard about it. A promotion, a new car, a beach vacation, they enjoy the moment and move on. But when you're rich, happiness becomes something else entirely. You buy the car, you buy the vacation, you upgrade your house, and after the initial rush wears off, you're left staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., asking questions nobody around you is asking. What even is happiness? Why doesn't this feel like enough? If money doesn't buy joy, then what's the point of all of it? This is what psychologists call the paradox of affluence. The more wealth you have, the harder it is to feel satisfied, because wealth removes survival problems. Rent, food, bills, emergencies, and once those are gone, your brain zooms out and starts interrogating bigger questions. The gift? This awareness forces you to think deeper. You're not distracted by whether you can make it through the month. You have the privilege of chasing meaning, purpose, and creation. Some of the richest people in the world end up using their wealth to fund art, science, or philanthropy precisely because stuff stopped working for them. The curse? It can ruin everyday joy. A birthday party, a small victory, a nice dinner. Things that used to feel big now feel fleeting, almost trivial. And when people around you are celebrating those moments, you feel disconnected. There's research backing this up. Studies on lottery winners show that after the first spike of joy, many report being less happy long-term. Why? Because once the novelty of wealth fades, they start obsessing over what's missing, instead of what's gained. Money didn't erase their existential questions, it magnified them. Think of it this way. When life gives you too many options, happiness becomes harder, not easier. You wonder if you've chosen wrong. You compare endlessly. You start asking, am I happy or just comfortable? Here's the irony. Money frees you from survival, but forces you into self-confrontation. You can't blame your unhappiness on bills anymore. If you're miserable, the only explanation left is you. So the richest people often reinvent happiness. Instead of chasing it in consumption, they build it in creation. They write books, start companies, launch charities, or even just invest in hobbies that light them up. Because when money removes limits, the only way to stay sane is to build your own meaning. Number 1. You feel like an outsider. You're at a family gathering. Laughter everywhere, food on the table, everyone swapping stories. On the surface, it's perfect. But inside, you feel like you're watching through glass. You're there, but not really in it. That's the quiet burden of wealth. Isolation. Psychologists call this wealth isolation, the feeling of being separated not by walls, but by perspective. Money doesn't just change what you can buy. It changes how people see you. You stop being just a brother, sister, friend, or coworker. You become the rich one. And once that label sticks, it rewires every interaction. The curse? Distance. Friends joke about must be nice every time you mention something. Family members secretly expect handouts. Strangers project envy or judgment before they even know you. You can adapt, you can downplay, but you can't erase the invisible wall. Money builds around you. The gift? Clarity. Wealth filters your circle faster than anything else. It shows you who loves you versus who loves your lifestyle. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. History is full of examples. From ancient kings to modern billionaires, the wealthiest often wrote about loneliness. Not because they didn't have people around them, they had crowds, but because true connection got harder to find. When you're different in such a fundamental way, belonging doesn't come naturally anymore. Here's the paradox. Money gives you access to any room, but it can also make you feel like you don't belong in any of them. You can travel anywhere, live anywhere, buy anything, but you can't buy feeling understood. And yet, here's the twist. Isolation doesn't have to mean exile. The richest, happiest people don't chase crowds. They chase tribes. The rare people who make them feel human again. People who don't care about the price of your watch, who don't measure you by your portfolio, who let you be more than just a balance sheet. So yes, being rich can make you feel like an outsider, but it can also push you toward the rarest, most valuable thing money can never buy: genuine connection. So, which of these signs hit you hardest? Do you question every price tag? Do you get bored with luxury? Do you secretly feel like an outsider, even in a room full of people you love? If even a few of these felt familiar, it's not because you're broken, It's because wealth rewires your brain in ways most people will never experience. It's both a gift and a curse, a passport to freedom, but also a ticket to loneliness. Money changes everything, and the richer you get, the more you realize the real challenge isn't earning it, it's staying human while you have it. Subscribe and comment which sign you saw in yourself.